My name is Sevanesian, and I am the author of The Color Orange. My novel, The Color Orange, is a young adult fiction book about self-discovery, neurodiversity, and disability. The reasons why I chose to write this book are a series of different points in my life that I grew to want to become a disability advocate. But the main reason why I've chosen to write my story the way that I have comes from a TED Talk that I actually watched a couple of months ago by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie entitled "The Danger of a Single Story." In it, she attributes her experience as an African woman coming from an educated, upper-middle-class family to coming to the States, and her roommate being surprised that she knew who Mariah Carey was. And when I thought about that in relation to disability culture, I thought that the two were extremely similar. And this was actually reinforced recently with Sia's nomination for a Golden Globe. Now, while Sia's movie is an isolated single story that reinforces the stigma surrounding autism, the nomination from the Golden Globes reinforces the fact that this single story is still believed, that it is somehow valid. And in that, I thought that it was extremely dangerous to reinforce that. What Miss Adichie's TED Talk really taught me was that when we have these stereotypes, they are often reinforced by mass media, by the news outlets, by our history books. And when we persist in them in modern day, to be a progressive society and to persist in single stories means that we are being fake activists, that we are not truly changing history, we are just coloring it in a different shade. Now, my character Robbie has autism, and what I want to preface really quickly is in Robbie's case, in Ayla's, in Willow's, in Roger's, and in Izzy's case, I am only writing the story from one point of view of one person with autism. I in no way want to overshadow the community of any of these disabilities or impairments and the works that they have done. I merely want to be an ally. And what I have done is because I am an able-bodied and neurotypical woman, I play into a confirmation bias that has been indoctrinated in me about disability culture, and I wanted to kind of challenge that and blur those lines. And in that, I decided not to include a villain in my book because oftentimes in literature, a villain represents some part of society or some inner demon that we all seem to share that is relatable. But in real life, that isn't so. There is never one main bully. There are a slew of things. There's never just one bump in the road. And this is something that is not only prominent in neurotypical and able-bodied culture, but also in neurodiverse and disability culture. You will see that each of their stories is completely different. They are all completely different people, but they are all hardworking. Most are college graduates or in college, and they are all doing what they can like everybody else. We are all simply in the same boat. We are just trying to provide for ourselves and live our happiest lives. And another major way that I wanted to blur the lines was in my themes. Now, Robbie lives his life by trying to color code. He understands emotion through color and its different shades, from being kind of sad to extremely sad, kind of angry to very angry. And while neurotypicals, in my opinion, we live our lives in a black box, Robbie lives his in an orange circle. And by living his life in an orange circle, he wants to find a color for being content. And that is something that neurotypicals and able-bodied people can really relate to. We all want to be content in ourselves. We all want to accept ourselves holistically, but oftentimes that's very difficult to do on a day-to-day. And oftentimes I feel as though we look for being content like we look for happiness, or we feel sadness as a momentary feeling, where being content in yourself, you must persist in it. It is a constant thing to do no matter what emotion you're experiencing. That was kind of the basis in how I felt as though I could blur those lines. And by the end of the book, even after you read not only the anecdotes of the orphans that I have included, but the anecdotes of my friends and friends that I have made along the way, you see that there are so many stories, that there is a spectrum in itself of stories, and that if we are to persist in stories the way that stories like Sia's have been presented, we will never be able to be a progressive society or ever get past what our ancestors or our history has dictated for us. And I feel as though that by the end of the book, you will be able to miss the characters, that you will want to be friends with people like them, or that you're already friends with people like them. You'll want to perhaps educate yourself on disability culture if you have not already. And in that, I want people that don't know much about disability culture to read it. I want people from these different disability or neurodiverse cultures to read it and tell me how they feel about it. I want the opinions. I want to ensure that I am an ally to all of the people that are doing their work, and to amplify those voices and really make sure that from every corner they're heard. Teachers, educators, parents. I also want to reinforce the fact that while I don't expect Robbie to inspire because he has autism and because he's doing things, I want him to inspire because he does become content in himself. And that journey of becoming content in yourself is a very long and tumultuous one, but it's very important. And in that sense, I want kids to be able to relate to more than one princess or more than one superhero, and to divide that idea of a single story. If we begin to relate to and read and create more than one type of character. Thank you.